called today's Passion Week, leading up to Calvary, which is the greatest love story ever told. It talks about a God that loves his creation so that he planned even for its failure. He planned for its failure so that no one could supplement its redemption but him. And as we look at our lesson on this morning, we see here where the Lord starts off here in chapter 26 of the Gospel of Matthew. He talks about his preparation for the Passover and how that the Son of Man must be crucified. You have to understand where the disciples' mindset is. 3.5 years they walked with him. They saw him turn water into wine. They saw Jesus on the ship with the tempestuous winds blowing and the ship filling with water, but yet Jesus is in the bottom of the ship, asleep. They seen him step up on the bow of the ship and speak to the wind. Said, peace. Then he spoke to the water and he said, be still. And the elements obeyed him. They saw their master in a crowd of folk on his way to Darius' house. But he was interrupted by a woman who had an issue of blood for 12 long years. And when she touched him, her touch was so profound that Jesus stopped in his tracks and asked the question, who touched me? Disciples could not register with him. Said, Lord, look at all these folk out here. And you asking us, who touched me? But the Lord wanted them to understand that this was not an ordinary touch. This touch drew virtue from him. And as he was on his way to Darius' house, he had to stop. Because this woman believed that the Lord didn't even have to know her name. He didn't have to anoint her. He didn't even have to lay hands on her, because she believed, if I could but touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made whole. You got to understand that she spent all that she had. She didn't have Blue Cross Blue Shield. She didn't have SSI. She took everything she had and spent on many doctors. And the Bible said instead of being made better, she got worse. But she heard about a man named Jesus. There's some folk in here.
Amen.
We're on the road of life in trouble. You couldn't tell where you were coming or going. You had a spiritual encounter with a man named Jesus. Turn your life around. They saw Jesus in a crowd of multitude of 5,000 men, not including women and children, and they were hungry. Jesus said, what do we have? If I would use our modern day vernacular, I would say all they had was a happy meal. But Jesus took little. 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, and he fed the multitude and had never enough to have leftovers. They saw Jesus. Young man was in a funeral procession on the way to the cemetery, and Jesus stopped the funeral procession and raised the boy from the dead. They saw Jesus at church. Demon-possessed man was at church. Jesus was able to cast the devil out of him. They saw many miracles performed by their God. So his disciples were quite excited about this Jesus as being their Messiah. They were looking for him to come and reign as their king.
My God.
So you can imagine how disappointed they were when this same Jesus talked about being crucified.